Okay, so we have a pure thought plus the other thought, d1 equated to the negative qd2. So, life is good, life is bad. So, the combination of these two forms a composite thought of descriptive thought 1. So what I'm saying is that this is a belief system. Okay, so we are saying this is a belief system because it tells us what we are thinking about, which is life, a pure thought. And what we have associated that pure thought with, the descriptive thought that life is bad. And what we don't believe about life, negative, life is bad. So, for this particular individual, we can say their belief system is associated with the idea that life is good, and they don't associate their perspective about life with the idea that life is bad. Okay, so that's basically a way to show how we actually come up with these belief systems. And for another individual, it could be the opposite, where we have qt plus qt d2, which is equal to qt d1, where this particular individual believes that life is bad and does not believe in the idea that actually life is good. Yeah, so basically these combinations, so we need to remember what a composite thought is and what a descriptive thought is. So now I just want to rewrite things in a far much better way so that we progress to actually deriving the equation of interest. So we have this belief system, and we also have this belief system, okay? So this belief system is that life is good. This belief system suggests that life is actually bad. Then we say that this this part of the equation is representing a composite thought of descriptive thought 1. That's what we said. So it also means that this part of the equation is representing the composite thought of descriptive thought 2. Right? So in this regard, it means that we need to come up with what we call the general equation of composite thoughts. Right? It means that composite thoughts are the ones which actually make us form belief systems, or belief systems are formed by these composite thoughts. So it means that what we are basically going to say, if we come up with a general formula for composite thought, we say C, meaning that composite thought, it will be, a composite thought can either be, take the form of a descriptive thought 1 plus the form of descriptive thought 2. Okay? This is what we have. So if we have that, it means that now we are going somewhere, because now we know that what we are saying is that our belief system, as a result of these composite thoughts, can either be a positive belief system or a negative belief system about life, right? Since we are basically talking about life right now. So in this regard now, remember that if we have this, now, what we can do is that since we have this, we know that now we can come up with a vector, right? A vector of composite thoughts, right? We know that since we have a composite thought, a particular thought that we are contemplating about in consciousness, remember that we said that consciousness is a function of thoughts, so the thought is this one, and emotions. So emotions are missing. So we can say, now the idea, there is a funny idea here. And the thing is, ideally, I'll just go straight to the point, then we'll start explaining things later. Since emotions are missing, in this equation, we need to have emotions. I put a dot here, which is a multiplication. Anyway, I can even put a multiplication times E. So that means that we are saying, and if we want, we can put C here, which is consciousness. So what we are saying is that consciousness is equal to the composite thought, or rather, consciousness is a product of a composite thought and emotions. Now, why a product or why multiplication? Because ideally, we can say it can be in this form, or it could be the other way round, or it could be QT plus E, or it could be C equals to QTC minus E, or C is equal to this minus QC. Okay? So far, these are the possible ways we can also go as far as maybe saying QT C to the exponent E, or C is equal to QT say E to the exponent QTC. So like I said, we're trying to come up with a mathematical expression of consciousness, right? So now these are possible ways we can actually more like express consciousness, but instead we have chosen this one. Why a product? Why multiplication? Why are we multiplying the quantity of thought or quantity of composite thought multiplied by the state of emotions? Or why are we multiplying the state of thoughts by the state of emotions? Why aren't we dividing the state of emotions by the state, why aren't we dividing the state of thoughts by the state of emotions? So we'll begin with this first one, and you realize that what does it mean if we divide the state of thoughts by the state of emotions? This could mean that the more we feel about certain thoughts we're thinking about, the less that we think about those thoughts. Because remember that the more that our emotions increase pertaining to this thought, the more that these thoughts begin to decrease, which is not really the case. That's not in reality. For example, the more that you are feeling, the more that you feel about something that you are thinking about, does not mean that the less that you think about that particular thing. That doesn't make sense. The more that you feel about that particular thing, the more that you think about that thing. That's how reality should be. And you realize that this one, The more that you think about something, the more that you feel something about that particular thing. Remember that we said that for consciousness to exist, we must be able to think and feel about how we think about that thing. So this one cancels out. Then, should it be that we should actually divide the state of our thoughts? I mean, should it be that we should divide the state of our emotions by the state of our thoughts? Could that be the case in reality? So this suggests that the more that you feel about something, or the more that you think about something, the less that you feel about that particular thing. So the more that you think about something, the less that you feel something about that particular thing. But this also doesn't make sense. It's just the opposite of what we have cancelled. So this one can't also apply. Then when we come to this one, so could it be that this could be the case where the state of consciousness is equal to the quantity of thought plus the state of our emotions? Could this be the case rather than this case? Now, it seems like here what we are saying is, for example, if whatever we are thinking about is increasing or persistent or continuously running on our mind, we are more likely to trigger more of the emotions associated with that particular thing, meaning that our thoughts are increasing along with our emotions. That could be the case, which is a little bit similar with this, but not really. Because look at these, the thoughts are independent from the emotions, but they are just being added together in this particular mathematical expression. However, where this becomes very incorrect is that could it be that if we are not thinking about anything, where our quantity of thought is equal to 0, we would be feeling something about that particular thing we are not thinking about? It's more like if you are basically focusing on something else, could you be feeling something about what you are not focusing on, or what you are not thinking about in your mind? That is not true. How about the other way around, where if our emotions are equal to 0, could it be that we can still be thinking about what we are not feeling? That is also not possible, because remember we said that for consciousness to exist, what you are thinking about, you must be also feeling something about what you are thinking about. So if what you are thinking about is not associated with any emotions, how could you be conscious of what you are thinking about? How is it possible to be aware of what you are thinking about, given that you are not aware of how you are feeling that you are thinking about that particular thing? So that is not possible. So this one cancels out based on the principle of consciousness, and basically the arrangement here, adding emotions to thoughts, does not seem to hold, because it is showing us that there could be a possibility of the thoughts being 0 but still feeling something about those thoughts, which is not supposed to be the case. So this one also cancels out. Then we can try out this other way, where the consciousness is equal to the difference between your emotions and your thoughts. Does this make sense? Like, for example, the more that you are feeling something, the less that the thoughts associated with those emotions become. Or in other words, is it that when you are thinking about, when you're feeling something, the thoughts associated with that feeling actually reduce the emotions or the feelings that you're thinking, the feelings that you're exhibiting? This doesn't make sense, because it is telling us that if you are thinking about something, the more that you think about that thing, the more that you feel less of what you are thinking about. So that is really total confusion, does not really work. Okay, so this other formula actually tells us that the consciousness is equal to basically the quantity of thought to the exponent of our emotions, which is represented by this. So in other words, it's trying to tell us that our thoughts increase at the rate at which our emotions increase. Could that be the case? So it is more like how much you will think will depend on how much you are feeling, which is a little bit not true. Because usually that is not the case. Thoughts and emotions should occur at the same time, because there is no lag at all. The lag could be associated with maybe the direction. Like, for example, someone can encounter something bad, but in the first few hours, they were not upset about the situation. But after some time, that is when they start feeling bad about the situation. So that is the lag between the direction of the state of emotions. The rate at which your emotions switch to a negative state based on your situation could be associated with a lag there. But when it comes to saying that when you are thinking about something, it will take time for you to start feeling something about that, that doesn't make sense. Because your thoughts actually occur at the same time as your emotions. So when you are thinking about something, you are also feeling something about what you are thinking. So, and what you're feeling could be positive or negative at that moment. Yeah. So now, in this regard, there is another just big problem. Of course, we can say a lot about this configuration of this particular mathematical generic form, but what is important is whether the principle holds well with regards to a situation where the state of emotions are equal to 0, or the state of thoughts are equal to 0. So here we see that if your emotions are 0, then probably this equation will not work out. Therefore, this particular equation does not seem to hold true, right? Because basically, if the emotions become 0, then everything here will collapse to 1, which is still saying that the state of thoughts will still remain present, even though the emotions are equal to 0, right? So, which is not supposed to be the case. So in this regard, this equation also does not work, because the principle should be that if your state of emotions are 0, then thoughts associated with those emotions should also equal to 0. Like, for example, whatever happened to you maybe in the past, if you were not thinking of them right now, should not be really things that you are feeling right now, because you should only feel something about what happened in the past, given that you start thinking about the past. That's how the principle should work, right? So this does not work. So same applies to this, because this is just the opposite of the other equation. So this also doesn't work. And now we are left with the product, right? Which I said that this is what we settle on as a mathematical expression of our state of consciousness based on the way it operates. So in this regard, we are saying the more we think about something, the more we feel something about that particular thing. And if our thoughts are equal to 0, it will be 0 multiplied by our state of emotions, which will mean that consciousness will collapse to 0, which makes sense, because if you If your thoughts about a particular thing are absent, it means that you won't feel anything about that particular thing and you'll be unconscious of that particular thing. So meaning the state of consciousness should equal to 0, given that the state of thoughts is actually equal to 0. Same applies if our emotions are equal to 0, then thoughts associated with those emotions should also be equal to 0. So there will be no consciousness. So this one seems to work far much better than all these other possible alternative formulas to the state of consciousness, right? So basically everything else we'll do next will begin from this same equation.